Hey, everybody on YouTube. This is a video recording of our normal audio podcast. So if you want to enjoy the end, you can go over to oncepodcast.com, subscribe there. We YouTube, but we do live stream our recordings, video recording of our. So 3, 2. Hold on.
Nothing.
That's because that is not switched.
Oh, that. Excuse me.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
No.
You're listening to Once, episode 158, Whiteout, Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
And we're happy to have you share cream with us because we used to discuss these before we get into it.
Yeah.
These are just our initial reactions. So we're going to be a bit all over the place, completely thought out. Like I might make the mistake of calling Yensid Merlin again. But
I don't think you'll make that one again.
That's what send your discussion podcast in a little bit. But no, Jeremy, what's your reaction?
Okay, reaction. You know how when we have finale and premiere parties, we have to pick show-themed food?
I want to look at what the ice cream flavors were. Because there is an ice cream shop in Storybrooke of flavors designed for characters in Once Upon a Time.
That's true.
We've seen this before and we've heard about it in previous extras related to Once Upon a and such. And so I wonder if they filmed it actually in that things to see. But the lady that makes the ice cream has like Henry's favorite and the Rumpelstiltskin flavors and different things like that. So I wonder if flavors appeared in this episode.
Now, do you think there is, in the basement of this ice cream shop, a
alley?
Oh, or bowling alley.
The other thing, by the way, speaking of extras, tonight when we to learn that there's a deleted scene, and that deleted scene is going to be available on Good Morning America Day
Tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
So by the time you're already available,
right,
it's gonna be there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's how people do. But let's talk about that lady, ice cream lady.
Ice cream lady. The whole point of the entire episode.
Just to get us to that
Build
point.
up to Elizabeth Mitchell's entrance.
Yeah, and she was Juliet from Lost. So that's not a spoiler just to tell you who she was.
It was her name.
But so we know that Elsa thinks she's the only one with this magical ability. And then we see this woman who can freeze stuff and she makes ice cream for a living, very fitting based on her magic. I think she could be one of two people or both of these two people.
Oh, okay.
And we've talked about this, theorized about this in the actual podcast before. One is Elsa's mother.
And we're going with that one because she's not, like Princess Leia.
Right. They are both blonde and they do kind of look alike. The other...
Oh, that wasn't your other one?
No. The other is maybe she is the actual Snow Queen. And so therefore she might be the villain of this season.
The villain.
Considering that Elizabeth Mitchell was a major part of Lost. She's not probably going to be just a throwaway character joining Once Upon a Time. I think they're bringing her on in this episode is going to give us a new story arc that she will be the villain of this season, not Elsa.
I was very happy that pretty much from the moment Emma met Elsa, there wasn't this hero versus villain vibe.
Yeah.
Because that never was going to work even for a little while.
It was understanding and maybe the start of a friendship.
I'd say so. I mean, they're both blonde.
And they both have magic. They haven't completely learned
They're
how to control.
sisters. Not really.
So Elsa's sister, Anna, went to the Enchanted Forest, and she was the one that trained David how to use a sword.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's not what we believed before.
well, we didn't really know because I remember talking about how David seemed to know his way with a sword.
I guess we just assumed everyone did to some degree, you know. Oh, from his shepherding, you know, it probably went something like that. We and you, the listeners, can go back and listen to how our discussion went around that time.
It looked like he even learned his trademark sword twirl thing from Anna. Because I thought,
is that a trademark or is that just a sword thing?
He does it.
Yeah, but so
every
do
time.
other people.
No, only he does it. Every time he has a sword, it's his little tradition that he always does this twirl thing with the sword and like swings it around.
Like, yeah, I picked that up from the girl that taught me to sword fight.
Yeah.
That's what he would say.
And Bo Peep. Of all characters.
Weirdest character ever.
Weirder than Jabberwocky?
And she's
from
just
Once Upon a
been
Time
like,
in Wonderland?
Like butchering meat in Storybrooke for, I guess she's just been laying low, even though she doesn't really like David. Oh, you're a hero in this land. That what? She what? Doesn't know who he is? She doesn't know who he was? That's confusing.
No, she does know who he was, but I think she was just kind of rubbing it in that, oh, you're a hero now, are you?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like she might have come for him at some other time with her little meat cleaver. Maybe they were too busy running to or from other problems and she was just waiting her turn. Maybe she was going to be the villain in season 7 if they hadn't actually gotten to her first tonight.
I do not want to see a Bo Peep season.
With flying sheep.
But interesting way of bringing in another fairy tale character.
She cursed the town and a like a sheep's pen fence would go up around the entire perimeter of the town and keep them from leaving for yet another season.
Yeah, the leaving thing. Yet again. So it makes me wonder, does that mean that if there weren't flying monkeys and there wasn't this ice wall, that people could leave Storybrooke?
I think that the next time the barrier came down, if I were them, I'd just yell road trip, drop what I'm doing, and head for that freaking border, because something's going to happen that's going to keep you. But then maybe you'd be afraid you wouldn't get back in, because there is more often than not a barrier there.
Yeah.
Of one kind or another.
It's the rotating storyline that every season there's some reason people can't leave Storybrooke.
At first, she was taking the wall down, and I thought, oh, good. They're not going to leave that there. Oh, she can't take it down. It's another mystery barrier, and who's doing it?
Yeah.
What color is her hair this season?
Snow Queen / Elsa's mama. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that she's both, because we are both.
Because we are both.
Speaking of both, Mary Margaret is basically now the mayor. That's pretty cool.
That's Mama Mayor to you.
I think.
Baby high five. Thanks.
Very fitting as well, because, yeah, she was the one to cast this curse. So that would make her the town leader.
Sure, why not? It didn't really work that way. I think they need to elect the mayor.
Well, Regina wasn't elected.
So that was built into their memories. This isn't built into their memory this time.
But I think Regina does have a good point.
Where did that whole power station come from?
I don't know. And apparently it can generate its own power. They don't need to have a power line to the outside world. So there is one little theory or point that addresses what so many people have talked about, that we've just said it's not important. Let's not try and bother with it. Like how
are
do they get food
right?
and power? Well, now we know they can generate their own
Right.
power.
And to all of you who perhaps went to school and extensive training to work in these electrical stations or possibly even power generation stations, I'm sure that you are fine with the fact that a woman who's never even seen the inside of one of these facilities before can go in, look at a manual in Japanese, which she can't read, and while holding a baby in one arm, do your job. All of you. She can replace all of you. She can get that place running again without magic.
Because she's Mama Mayor.
She's Mama
Mary
Mayor.
Margaret Mama Mayor. There's going to be a tongue twister from this somehow.
4M.
But I wonder if she's going to step into this role and become more of a leader in the town.
Oh, I thought you meant run the electrical station. Like I don't care. I don't want to see her do that. But that actually, she puts on a hard hat every day and just goes to work, and she's just like, I mean, how random is that? She does have experience with blackouts, if you remember.
Yeah.
Season 1.
Yeah, that's true.
Why didn't they sell some candles while the power was out?
Yeah, they sold them all out though.
Oh, right.
That's right. And they mentioned Dr. Whale, and he actually would have been a good guy to run the power because he's Dr. Frankenstein.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think he would have just put a big lightning rod on top.
And the most experience Marco has with electricity is a magical taser, or anti-magical taser that electrocuted his son when his son was completely wooden.
Before his son grew down.
Yeah, that's right. But speaking of electrocuting things, we want to give special thanks to some people who light up the podcast for us, keep the lights running on our server, on the podcast, on the media hosting, on the forums. So much. We are very grateful for your contributions. Specifically, thank you to Lisa Slack, Steve Johnson, David Newland, Laura Silva, and our backers on Patreon. We're up to $16.50 per episode over there. Thank you very much for your support. We really could not do this podcast without you when it comes to stuff like hosting the website and running the powerful database that we need. Our database is over 3 gigabytes because of the forums and all of the posts. And when I moved it to a new server, they were a little bit nervous about it because it's so big. And indexing that with a search engine is a massive task. But we could not do this kind of stuff without you. So we really appreciate your financial support. Big thank you to Lisa, Steve, David, Laura, and all of our Patreon backers. If you want to be one of our contributors and kind of be like a co-producer with us and help keep the lights running for us, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. You can donate a one-time donation, a per episode donation, or an automatic monthly donation. All the choices are there at oncepodcast.com/sponsor. And thank you for your support. So I really want to see, where is Anna?
I thought she was the necklace. I completely did, because there was that moment where Peep said she's somewhere safe or whatever she said, and she just drops the necklace down, and at that moment the actual necklace in present day was sort of down in the crevice, and I was like, oh, they're gonna have to get it back. And then but then they'd have Anna back already.
What if she is actually in the necklace? Because
I think maybe she is.
Rumpel is the wizard that she went to see, so maybe he did something to her. Maybe he locked her up in some kind of urn as well.
Anna's brilliant. She gets the name of Rumpelstiltskin on a piece of paper because the woman giving it doesn't like to say it out loud. And the first thing she does is read it out loud. First thing.
She's new with magic.
She's
a little bit. But one of the things that stood out to me that I forgot to mention in our last couple episodes about the season premiere is the necklace is broken in Storybrooke. It's broken. It has at least one of the little 6 parts that come out from the snowflake is broken from it. And in all of the old footage, or not old footage, in all of the past stuff, you see that the necklace is fully one piece. It's all there. But today it's broken. So I thought in this episode we would see it broken,
Hmm.
but something is yet to come that breaks that necklace, and it may be something significant, maybe some kind of battle. We know Anna's alive. Of course, she's going to be alive. But I don't know where to go with that. Crazy that she went to see David.
Is it?
So Kristoff gets a haircut, but David gets the opposite of a haircut.
Kristoff, they're friends. They share.
Yeah.
Kristoff gave his hair to David. It's kind of a...
Locks of love.
Mm-hmm. So why is it crazy?
Well, David is a shepherd,
Mm-hmm.
and how would he know someone from another land like that?
Well,
unless maybe he's bought
Kristoff-
ice from Kristoff.
well, maybe. Or maybe Kristoff's been to the Enchanted Forest.
Yeah.
Somehow they know each other. David sounded like he expected to be at the wedding. So apparently, clearly travel is possible. They're doing it. It's not like a different realm. And yeah, when you know someone in a faraway place, like one person and someone you know who is near you is going there and they don't know anybody, you usually send them to the person you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it was so great to see David's mother again.
That was.
Because it's been so long since we saw her.
She was a highlight of the episode.
Yeah.
As is Elizabeth Mitchell always.
Even though we just saw that little bit. That single moment.
Yeah. I thought Anna's character was developing a little better this week.
Yeah.
She has the quirkiness, but she's a little bit she was more of a real character this time.
I felt like, in general, this episode felt a lot more like Once Upon a Time episodes. Not quite in the big mystery and drama and constant action. Of course not. Not this early in the season. But I did feel like they're telling a story here and telling it pretty well, developing characters here, and not as much forcing Frozen into Once Upon a Time with this episode. I felt that way.
I felt that way last week as well, but it was a little bit more like the Frozen sequel last week, which was fine.
Yeah.
Although you say that, but we barely saw Regina. We saw Snow a little bit. She made up for lost time with her lines, and we barely saw Gold/Rumple or Belle. I'm assuming many of those people will be featured heavily next week.
Probably.
Seems to be how it goes.
Yeah, Gold knows something, and he's not telling.
He always knows something.
Yeah, he does. Timeline-wise, by the way, this would place this episode probably a few years before most of the events that we know of in the Enchanted Forest, because David has such long hair. This is before he meets Snow, before that whole arrangement where he becomes the prince, before all of that. So I would put this probably 2 or 3 years before the rest. That's my guess.
Sure. I just place it in the period of time where David lived on the farm and had long hair.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That'll be a timeline spot. By the way, shout out to Keb, who manages our timeline over at oncepodcast.com/timeline. If you haven't checked it out, she's working really hard to keep it up to date, but there's so much information to put on it. And it's a big timeline now where it's actually putting together a chronological order of the events that we understand, mostly from Enchanted Forest. So if you're ever confused about, wait, where does this fit in with things? We've looked very closely at certain details. Keb has looked even closer at them. She was doing such a great job maintaining a timeline that I invited her to maintain our timeline, and she does a fabulous job with it. So go over there to oncepodcast.com/timeline. Yes, you may disagree with some of the things. That's fine. But check it out. Check out Keb's awesome work over there and say something nice to her. So that's... I don't know where I was going with that.
It's interesting bringing up the timeline because there's always this awkward curse gap that has to be traversed. So Anna, presumably, I mean, being in Enchanted Forest, she could be preserved through any number of means. Elsa was, again, presumably preserved because she was in the urn. well, she traveled through time, so we don't have to worry about that with her.
Right.
uh, but then that leaves the question of Kristoff, if nobody else. Is he in Storybrooke? Is he somewhere else? Was he in Arendelle and frozen in time the way people left behind in Enchanted Forest were? Questions.
Yeah, I don't know, because it would be...
Was he there the first time? Was he there in this curse? What's his deal? Is he out of the story in present day? Which, no, he's not. I think it's safe to say that would be weird.
And did Anna and Kristoff ever get married?
Well, I'm assuming no.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, that would require that she came back, got married, lived happily for a little while, and then went back to the Enchanted Forest and disappeared again.
Not necessarily. Although something probably does happen in the Enchanted Forest, because how else would Elsa get to the Enchanted Forest to be captured and bottled up by Rumple?
That's why I've been making the assumption that she never returned.
Okay. Yeah. That does make sense. Or there could be many ways that it could go with this. We do want your feedback for our upcoming full discussion of this episode. We do the podcast live on Sunday nights at 9:15 Eastern Time over at oncepodcast.com/live. That's where we have a live chat during the Eastern and Central Time airing of the show, and then our initial reactions afterward. And then on Wednesdays at 8 p.m., we do our live full discussion and include your feedback in that. So if you want your theories and observations to be included, please email them to us. feedback@oncepodcast.com, and put in the subject line of the email, White Out. That's the title of this episode.
Don't put white out on your screen. Write the words white out in your subject line.
You can also call and leave a voicemail at 903-231-2221, or send a voice message right through the website at oncepodcast.com. And we'd love for you to join us during our live episodes. And if you're ever unsure about when we're live, just go to oncepodcast.com/live, and you can find out if there's a heartbeat there, even if you can't find us through the crook of Bo Peep's staff.
Add to the list of things you never thought you'd say.
Yeah, but things that I feel like I want to say again in the future. We're also going to try a bit of a different format for a couple episodes of the podcast. Instead of going scene by scene, we want to highlight, well, the highlights. We want to focus on some of the major themes in each episode. So that way we're giving more time to what really needs more discussion, less time to some of the trivial things that are just a minor observation. We'll still try to notice those things, but we want to highlight those main discussion points a lot more. So we'll be picking those ourselves and also looking for what really stands out to you. If you send us a long email, here's a really good way that you can help us out, is break that email up with headings so we know what each section of your long email is, because you're really smart. You send some excellent feedback.
You know you wrote an article, so break it down for us.
Yes. Subheadings really help us a lot. And they also help Corbin, who helps filter our email for us as well. So we're really excited about getting to hear from you, including your feedback, and discussing this episode in much more detail with Hunter, Jacqueline, and Aaron in our upcoming full discussion, and including your feedback as well. So once again, email it to feedback@oncepodcast.com, or call and leave a voicemail at 931-2221, or go to the website oncepodcast.com. You can also connect with us on Twitter at OncePodcast, and connect with each of us individually. I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at
Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
And comment on the show notes for this episode at oncepodcast.com/158. Until we're together, no one leaves this town. And thanks for listening. I completely messed up the music there. The wrong button, that's why. Here's the right music.
Oh yeah, that was the opening.
So I'm just going to let this play and then do the timing.
That was subtle. because I was, but I couldn't figure out why.
Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our sponsors for this episode of Once Podcast. If you'd like to be one of them and contribute, even if it's just a single one-time donation, check out all of the options you have over at oncepodcast.com. Sponsor, or even if you can't contribute financially, consider writing a nice iTunes or Stitcher. And thank you for your support.